The French won an overwhelming victory at the Battle of Walang. It was the first time the English had been utterly defeated during the war. But the triumph was short-lived. As England spent the next 60 years amassing French territory through alliances and victories at great battles such as Agincourt. It seemed that nothing could stop England. Who then could have foreseen that a teenaged girl was about to change the course of history? In 1429, France was in dire straits. Nowhere was it more evident than the besieged city of Orleans. The city was completely surrounded by English-held forts. But just a few days' ride away, here in Chinon, there was potential help. The French royal prince, the Dauphin Charles, was holed up in his fortress and under pressure to ride out to save Orleans. As Charles hesitated, a young peasant girl arrived at his court. Her name was Jeanne d'Arc. She claimed to have received saintly visions, giving her a divine task to help Charles become king and drive the English out of France forever. Charles was skeptical, but was soon convinced of her divinity. And he charged this 17-year-old with the near impossible mission to liberate Orleans. To Jeanne, this was the first step in realizing her God-given destiny. In April 1429, she rode out from Chinon at the head of her army to confront the hated enemy of France. Surrounded by English strongholds, and with its last line of defense under attack, the city of Orléans grew ever more desperate. In France's darkest hour, 17-year-old Jeanne d'Arc arrived with the king's army to liberate a city and prevent the fall of a nation.
Vex, veici les commandements. Defecte sera. Compagnon, restons en bataille. Les courez-ours tout j'ai besoin. Attention, madame. Defecte sera.
Oh, me fa au trail. Quid aves besoin à faire? Vais à la mine.
Besoin à faire? Vecuer merias.
The English had captured the vital fortification, known as Les Tourelles, on the south bank of the Loire. Orléans would live or die on its access to supplies. Recapturing Les Tourelles would be key to saving the city.
Oh, me faute.
Oh yes, les commandements.
Oil, mestier de mouet, suis en quemi. Lors batige c'est en besoin. Giovanni Basti.
Bayets moi besoin. Lors batige que faut-il donc besoigner? Que va-t-il bastir?
Ça est bel manoir. Oh, me fa au trail.
16 belles manoirs. Besoin à faire?
Reste de l'ennemi!
Six à l'ennemi.
Oil, mestier de mouet. J'exploite les répares.
Les courez-ours atteignent les commandements. Compagnon, restons en bataille. Avant, sans ralentir. Perfecte la flotte. Six à l'ennemi. Je fais vos commandements. Avant, sans ralentir. C'est fait comme toi. Attention, compagnon. J'ai besoin.
Bayets moi besoin.
Besoin à faire? Fouille, mat.
Soyez express. Je fais vos
The
commandements.
main bridge leading to Orléans had been destroyed by the French to prevent an English onslaught. Jeanne d'Arc had to find another way to cross to the south bank and make her assault on Les Tourelles.
Ennemis marchés!
Avant, sans ralentir.
Bayets mouet besoin. Je vais renfouiller ce matin.
Devers, tout devant, soldat.
suffered under the English siege for months, Orléans had sent for crucial supplies, but English patrols threatened their arrival at the city. If Orléans hoped to receive the supplies, the French would have to clear the road of English raiders.
À haut de l'estier, à point de tête-masse. Autre Versailles.
Compagnons, prêts tous en bataille! Avant, sans ralentir!
Obeleste paré.
Que faut-il donc besoigner?
Veille express! Veille les advis!
Gesmets vos habillement, Obelestier. Obeleste au col. Avant. Laisse obéir.
Surround.
Soyez express! Veille les advis! Compagnons, prêts tous en bataille!
Oh, me faut trail. Fouillers ma toute vie. En besoin. Veille à la lutte.
Courez où? Prêts pour l'hiver! C'est pas que cela!
The English had captured the vital fortification, known as Les Tourelles, on the south bank of the Loire. Orléans would live or die on its access to supplies. Recapturing Les Tourelles would be key to saving the city.
Que faut-il donc besoigner?
Dictez-moi une Versailles.
Ni engins de siècle.
Voyez moi besoin. Cheval, Bastille. Oil, mestière de moi. Social, besoigne à faire. Donc besoigner. Pouvons savoir. Oh, me faut trail. Arbu besoigne en grande terre. Que faut-il donc besoigner? Oui, d'aves fouiller. Manuel Rassoui. Belle œuvre. Ça.
Pex, veille les commandements. Ramon crie, avant! Allons de ce sens plus attendre.
Oh, me faut trail.
Autre Versailles. Obeleste paré.
En besoigne. Lors bâti. Oh, mestière de moi.
Oyez les commandements.
The main bridge leading to Orléans had been destroyed by the French to prevent an English onslaught. Jeanne d'Arc had to find another way to cross to the south bank and make her assault on Les Tourelles.
Compagnon,
longtemps.
Incontinent le ferai.
Donetz nuevos advits.
Si fait que sera. Voisance, bien ordonnée. Les Gryffondors! Demande rival! Les Coréours atteignent la fin de main! Coréours prennent fort rival! Demande rival! Les Coréours sont certaines! C'est fait comme toi! Les Coréours atteignent la fin de main! Ramonterie, avance! Voisin, bien ordonnée!
Que faut-il donc besoin? Je vous amène mes rien.
Oh yes, les commandements.
L'heure est de besoin.
6 à la demi. Avant, sans ralentir. Avant, sans ralentir.
Having suffered under the English siege for months, Orléans had sent for crucial supplies. But English patrols threatened their arrival at the city. If Orléans hoped to receive the supplies, the French would have to clear the road of English raiders.
6 à l'ennemi.
Va jetzt moins besoin.
Oh, me fa au trail. Vestiaire, mais rien.
Régimendement. Armes des forelais et avant. Or attendons ordonnance. Oyez les commandements. Compagnons, envoyez pour la bataille, soudas. Attentis, régimendement. Oil.
Vayez moins besoin. Si vech out chance.
Régimendement. Armes des forelais et avant.
Donetz nuevos advits.
Commandez l'Empire. Marchette derrière.
Engin de siège.
Je fais force commandement. Perfect. À la salle. Allons, ce sont plus attendre. Ça y est, prêt. Veichi les advis.
Surrounded by
Veichi les si fait que sera. Oh yes, let's face vos commandements.
Un besoin. Je vous amène mes riens. Oil. Mestière de mouet. Ardu besoin en grande terre. Oh, me fa au trail.
Besoin y a fait?
Soyez compagnons. Restez en bataille. Commandement in continent, companion.
Gypsy come was wandering.
The English had captured the vital
Soyez
fortification
compagnons.
known as Les Tourelles on the south bank of the Loire. Orléans would live or die on its access to supplies. Recapturing Les Tourelles would be key to saving the city.
Moins besoin. Giovanni va besoin après. Lors batige s'estui.
The main bridge leading to Orléans had been destroyed by the French to prevent an English onslaught. Jeanne d'Arc had to find another way to cross to the south bank and make her assault on Les Tourelles.
Besoin est direct. Oil, mestière de moi. Don stia l'oreille.
Que faut-il donc besoigner? Oil, mestir des mouets. Juste y a Laurette.
Reste d'obéir. Presque par une sanglante agie.
Que faut-il donc homme faut trail. Pouvons savoir, mestière de bois.
Long
Commandement in continent, companion. Oh yes, avant, sans ralentir. Soyez prêts. Veillez les services. Action, compagnon! J'ai besoin! Avance, sans ralentir!
Enemies marché.
Compagnon, j'ai votre ordonnance. Envoyez pour...
Action, compagnon!
Attentis, régiment de Mans. Oyez! Oi!
Having suffered under the English siege for months, Orléans had sent for crucial supplies. But English patrols threatened their arrival at the city. If Orléans hoped to receive the supplies, the French would have to clear the road of English raiders.
L'Esprangay attend vos ordonnances. Beyond chance, mouvance nous.
Tex, Amantri, avance. J'ai besoin. Allons de ce sens plus attendre.
L'Esprangay attend vos ordres.
Oh yes, laisse comme un sus à l'ennemi. Perfect, à l'arsenal. Amantri, avance. Si fait comme toi ici. Maintenant, tiens ordonnée.
Seul chien nos archives.
surrounded.
Un besoin.
Oh yes, let's commandements.
Hem besogne. Bien me plates over champs. Oil, mestier des mouets. Provence avoir mestier des
On me fa au trail. Cuida, ves
Que faut-il donc besoigner? Oui, da. Ressuir.
Commandement perfect. À l'arson. Avant, sans alentir.
The English had captured the vital fortification, known as Les Tourelles, on the south bank of the Loire.
Veici les advis.
Orléans would live or die on its access to supplies. Recapturing Les Tourelles would be key to saving the city.
Que faut-il donc
The main
besoin?
bridge leading to Orléans had been destroyed by the French to prevent an English onslaught.
Baillets moins besoin.
Jeanne d'Arc had to find another way to cross to the south bank and make her assault on Les Tourelles.
Soyez express. Veici.
Soyez express, compagnon.
Compagnon. Reste tous en bataille. 6 à l'ennemi.
Ordonnance. Oyez les commandements.
Attention. Compagnon. Vex. Veici. Avant. Sans alentir. Il est mares.
Obeleste paré.
Commandement in continent. Compagnon. Les coureurs attendent les commandements. Les coureurs sont sincères. Défaites de cela. Compagnons, restez tous en bataille. L'honneur vous demande ce visage. Attends, compagnons. Les coureurs sont sincères. Avant, sans alentir. Oh yes, let's see face comme grace. Compagnon, reste tous en bataille. Oh yes, let's commandement.
Reste por terre.
Access Metzvos, compagnon.
6 à l'ennemi.
Lancière en place.
Baillets moins besoin. Alors, bâti.
Oil, mestier de mouet. Giovanni Basti.
Commandement in continent. Compagnon. Attention, compagnon.
Besoin à faire.
Devers sous devant, solidaire.
Having suffered under the English siege for months, Orléans had sent for crucial supplies. But English patrols threatened their arrival at the city.
Ayez bien cœur.
If Orléans hoped to receive the supplies, the French would have to clear the road of English raiders.
Lancière en place.
Compagnon, Marchette derrière.
Le vers
Là-haut,
côté de Rachir.
Voisance, bien ordonnée. Compagnon, reste tous en bataille.
Soyez attentifs. J'y laisse commandement.
Avant, sans ralentir. Si pecte sera. Allons ce sens plus attendre. Compagnon, Marchette derrière. Voisance, bien ordonnée. Amon Christ, avant. Je fais vos commandements. Reste tous me
The French eliminated the English raiders, granting the supply convoys safe passage into the city. Each time supplies approached Orléans, English raiders would return to guard the road, hoping to plunder the French goods. The supply convoy arrived in the city, providing the French army with much-needed gold.
Entière! Prenez vos armes!
Pour votre service.
Tournez où reste Rider. V6 à l'ennemi. Adios, compagnon. Veici les commandes.
Soyez prest, compagnon.
Si fait comme toi.
Vengeance est entier!
Si pecte sera. Oyez les commandes à l'ennemi.
Veuillez-moi,
Devant, Rider, je fais votre commandement.
À la sonne, chevalière.
Les coureurs sont denzel.
Besoigne à faire.
Que faut-il donc besoigner?
Et donc besoigné. En besoigne. Veille à la mission.
Soyez prêts. Veici les atouts. Compagnon, reste tous en bataille.
Sauveuse en ordonnance.
Commandement in adios, compagnon. Avant, sans ralentir.
Seeing another supply convoy approaching the city, English raiders took up position on the road.
Je fais votre commandement.
The French needed to eliminate the enemy detachment if they hoped to receive the supplies.
Perfect. À la sonne.
En besoin. Ma lance presse.
Les coureurs atteignent les fins de match. Compagnon, reste tous en bataille. J'ai besoin.
Marchier vos
Oje! Nos avance, commandement! Ojet's bien, compagnon!
Armes auf et pour avant. Envoyé pour la bataille, soudain.
Les Coréous sous Denzel! Tue son ennemi!
Dictez-moi une bataille.
Si faites comme souhait! Si faites que ça! Action! Compagnon!
Attentis!
Another trade convoy arrived in Orléans, with more gold to bolster the army.
Attends, quoi faut-il faire?
Soyez prêts! Veichi les têtes!
Laissons classe commandement!
Si faites comme toi!
Hey, si non, commandement! Laisse-moi aller! Posez mon demande sur les chemins de ce
Les Coréous entendent les commandements! Compagnon! Faites tout son bataille!
Oh, me fa au trail. Giovanni Basti. Oi, mestière de moi. Je vais...
Devers tout devant, solidaire! Pointant! Bien ordonné!
Les chevaucheurs sont prêts.
Si besoin!
donc? Où faut-il marcher? Dicte-moi mon Versailles. Quoi faut-il faire?
Besoin à faire. Cuillère est ma tout.
Besoin à faire. Fouillère, en besoin. Fouillère, est ma... Que faut-il donc besoin? Vais à la mine.
Bayet's moi besoin.
Devers où faut-il marcher?
Tous te y a Lauretz.
Commandement incontinent!
Obeleste paré, preste portrait. Dictez-moi une Versailles.
Commandement pour les chevaucheurs.
13 de ennemi.
Oyez les commandements! Si fait que sera! Si fait à la sorte! Avant! Sans ralentir! Les Coréous attendent les commandements! Je fais votre commandement! Avance, sans alentir. Compagnons, reste tous en bataille. Attention, compagnons.
Commandement pour les chevaucheurs. Oui, tout dit commandement.
jetzt prêt. Veici les advis.
Another trade convoy arrived in Orleans with more gold to bolster the army.
Tendons ordonnance. Régiment commence.
Compagnon, regarde bien.
Arme au point.
Oil, mestière de mouet. Oil, cito.
Fex. Veici les romancis à l'ennemi.
Yes, les commandements. Enquête pour le monté.
Une scroll traverse le mace à la bouée.
Compagnon, mettons sans jouer.
Tournez-vous, très fort hiver. Des packs de semaine. Si besoin.
The French army torched the eastern English fort, securing a crossing to the south bank of the Loire River.
Wo ist jetzt, Kompagnon?
Licoureur attendent les compagnon. Je face vos commandements. Je face vos commandements.
Reste tout estationné. Reste tous, allons.
Mon arme est prête.
Commandements in Domina. Ripétez-le. Avant, sans ralentir.
Maïs et mon destrière sont prêts.
Licoureur sous Denzel. Compagnon, repousse en bataille. Compagnon, Licoureur.
Régiment demande. Or, attendons ordonnance. Attentis, régiment demande. Seconde voice.
Licoureur sous Denzel. Tue à l'ennemi.
Enjambe, attendons. Alarmé. Compagnon, Givos ordonnances. Arme des forêts et avant.
Tournez-vous, très fort hiver. Avant, sans ralentir. Tue à l'ennemi. Perfect, à l'attaque.
Régiment demande. Enjambe du ciel, attends. S'il sera fait. Seconde votre commandement. Oyez. Il nous traverse.
Commandement.
The last obstacle to Les Girelles fell to ruin.
Enjambe votre attendons. Rasez tête douce. Faites way pour la bataille, soldats.
Veici les si faites comme fait.
Another trade convoy arrived in Orleans with more gold to bolster the army.
Oyez les commandes. Arme des forêts et avant.
Jeunesse du dieu.
Fritz. Va jetzt moi besoin.
Commandement,
Oh, me
chevaucheurs.
faire trahir? Lorsque
De vers sous devant, Florida! John, compagnon! Avant, sans ralentir! Compagnon, reste tous en bataille!
Unser des Sieg est prêt, compagnon! Chivos ordonnant, regardez les commandements! Anjan vos attend! Armes hors du fourreau! Attentis! Armes hors du fourreau!
Un besoin. J'exploite les réparements.
Reste tous à lance! Régiment de monte!
Commandement incontinent! Adios, compagnon! Compagnon, reste tous en bataille! Adios, compagnon! Perfect à l'arton!
Où est-ce de votre plaisir?
Quel est de besoin?
Yes, les commandements! Avant, sans ralentir! Courez-vous, reste fort, leader! Si faites comme ça! Et courez-vous, tous j'ai besoin! Compagnons, reste tous en bataille! De vers sous devant, solidaire! Adios, compagnons!
Honnête les commandements! Oi, s'il se affecte!
Commandement.
On me laisse parer! Attentis! Régiment de monte! Oye! Compagnon, chivos ordonnances!
Où est-ce de votre plaisir?
Autre Versailles?
Soyez express, faites-y les advices. 6 à l'ennemi. J'ai besoin. Compagnon, restez en bataille. Les courez-vous, la Courez-vous, reste fort, leader. C'est pas que ça marche. Les courez-vous, atteindre les commandements. De vers sous devant, Florida. Les courez-vous, sous Tencel. De vers sous devant, Florida. J'ai besoin. Les courez-vous, sous Tencel. Courez-vous, reste fort, leader. C'est fait comme toi. Les courez-vous,
Another trade convoy arrived in Orléans with more gold to bolster the army.
Oyez les commandements! Aucun sport!
les courez-vous, atteindre les commandements. Où dois-je, leader? Vex, beau destrier.
Embelestier! À point!
Puissance, bien ordonnée. Perfect, à la scène. À mon cri, avance. Allons, ce sort plus.
Attentis! Wait, compagnon!
Courez-vous, reste fort, leader.
Régiment de monte! Mangonels assumet ses engins!
Access Metzvos, compagnon.
Jouez pour la bataille, soudain!
Oi, est-ce que de moi?
Attentis! Halte de commandement! Et avant! Oyez les commandements!
Oyez, si fait que ce sera.
Jerry Duncan.
Oh, me fa au trail.
Je vais requalifier ce bateau.
Dicte-moi vos commandes Bex, vos destriers.
Compagnon, chivos ordonnances.
Assurance, compagnon. J'ai besoin.
Régime on demande.
Attendez les commandements.
Commandement incontinent, compagnon. Avant, sans ralentir. Je fais vos commandements. 6 à l'ennemi.
Oyez les commandements.
Veici les 6 fesses comme toi. Assurance, compagnon.
Compagnon, chivos ordonnances. Attentis, à part même.
Compagnon? Oui, à Marseille.
Audité.
Alex, wench de col. Pousse-tête boss pour les quartiers. Reste de l'ennemi!
Régime armes hors du fourreau. Avant.
Oyez les commandements. Compagnon, reste tous en bataille. 6 à l'ennemi. C'est fait. Je fais.
Reste tout à Edway pour la bataille. Loulard. Edway. Arme des forêts et avant. Oh, qui se rappelle. Engins de siège, attendez vos ordonnances. Arme corps du fourreau, avant.
Another trade convoy arrived in Orleans with more gold to bolster the army.
Edway. Compagnon, Edway, arme au point.
Que faut-il donc besoigner?
Commandement pour les chevaux.
Transport hiver. Si faites comme toi. Incontinent le ferai. Si pecte sera. Allant ce sens plus intense.
Engins de siège, attendez.
Soyez si faites.
Engins vos attendent. Engins de siège, traillez.
Commandement incontinent, compagnon.
Urgence de siège à 6. Engins de siège, attendez vos ordonnances. Arme des forêts et avant. Régiment de demande.
Tête, jeunesse Lydia.
Revers sous devant ce rida.
Reste tout attendez. Oh, si je me rappelle.
Sur quoi me faut-il prêt?
Tourelle was the linchpin in the English siege of Orléans, blocking the main supply route to the city. If Jeanne d'Arc could capture it, Orléans would finally be liberated.
Armes défoncées et avant!
Dicte-moi mon Versailles.
Option de siège, attendre de...
Compagnons, marchez derrière! Si faites de sera! Avant-rive, avant!
Oyez les commandements. Headway pour la bataille. Attentis. Régiment de Mans. Headway, arme au point. Oyez. Ennemis massifs. Oyez les commandements.
Les ennemis sont archis.
Compagnons, chez vos ordonnances.
Voici les commandements.
Fais si faites comme toi. Si faites de sera!
Arme sort du fourreau, avance! Headway pour la bataille, soudard! Régiment de Mans.
Soyez express! Veici les atouts!
Régiment.
Pex, voisance! Bien ordonnez!
De vers où faut-il archer?
Oyez les commandements. Aucun sport le beauté.
Dicte-moi mon Versailles.
Seconde votre commandement.
De vers où faut-il archer?
Réussi novels commandements.
Les engins de siège à 6.
Compagnons, voyez bien.
Heil, messieurs des mouets.
Où sont les commandements?
Que faut-il donc besoigner? Ardu besoigne à faire? Si vech à...
En besoin.
As-tu besoin en grande terre?
Oi, mestier de moi.
Giovanni Basti.
En besoigne.
Lors Batige s'estu.
Commandement incontinent!
Attentis. Oil.
Oyez, avant-cri, avant! Comme
Campagne à part main.
Oyez, laisse comme allons ce sens plus attendre! Allons ce sens plus attendre! Je passe vos commandements!
Oyez les armes hors du décollez et avant!
Jetzt presst! Veici les advis! 6 à l'ennemi!
Attends, Veici maintenant!
Gloriosa
Envoy! Arme au point! Armes hors du front! Avant!
Veici les commandements! Perfect! Alarson! Si besoin!
Restut est à 6! Oh yeah!
Commandement incontinent! Avant! Sans ralentir! Alarson!
Another trade convoy arrived in Orléans with more gold to bolster the army. The King's army drove the hated enemy of France from Les Tourelles. With the main road to the city back in French hands, the English abandoned their long siege of Orléans. Celebrating a momentous victory at the head of the French army, Jeanne d'Arc would forever be remembered as the Maid of Orléans. A medieval army on the march was a city on the move. No expense was spared to keep knights and nobles in the lap of luxury.
Knights lived in luxurious tents called pavilions, which had all of their furnishing, proper chairs and tableware, real beds with fine linens, even wall hangings.
All this furniture had to be transported, and that's on top of what was needed for combat. Weapons and armor needed an army of artisans to maintain them.
The armorer's job on campaign was one of maintenance, constantly repairing, knocking out dents, simply changing straps, or replacing rivets that had broken. If you think of the knight as a race car driver, the armorer is his chief mechanic. Without him, he would not be able to function.
Also following an army was a band of opportunistic civilians, the camp followers. All vying to sell their services and goods to the soldiers. When on the march, most of the thousands of soldiers were mounted. Each knight would have at least 6 horses, all needing grooms, farriers, and fodder.
The royal household brought with them their clerks, their priests, essential for men who feared they might die in battle. And of course, their cooks.
The common soldier subsisted mainly on bread and a thick soup called pottage. It was an altogether different story for the knights.
A knight on campaign would expect the best food. So we have game, we have fine meats, we have fruit when it's in season, always cooked, because food is tied in with health as well. That's very important. And I'm just finishing off a dish here of spiced meatballs with a red wine and pine nut sauce.
French and English armies could be on campaign for months on end, maneuvering and skirmishing until they took to the field for a decisive battle. Jeanne d'Arc had liberated Orléans and put the English army to flight. However, as the English retreated, they became an obstacle for Charles the Dauphin. He needed a clear path from Chinon to Reims, where he would be crowned king. Nearing the town of Patay, the English sought to regroup. But Jeanne d'Arc and her French army were closing in. Fleeing the Loire Valley, the English were on the run. As they retreated northwards, a French vanguard was in close pursuit.
Accept vos, compagnon. Incontinent. Asseyez vos armes. Nos allons.
Caught out of position, the French faced a surprise attack from the English rearguard.
Was wondrous. Asseyez vos armes. Nos allons. L'ennemi est à guerre.
A detachment of English archers blocked the road with palings, an effective measure against cavalry. The French vanguard had to clear the road if they were to call in reinforcements.
Accept vos. Nos allons. Allons. L'ennemi nos aguette. Accept vos armes. Avant. Incontinent. Accept vos armes. Avant.
With the road cleared, the French army could safely bring in reinforcements from nearby allies. The French army paid their ally and received a detachment of reinforcements.
Avertissez votre courage, compagnon. L'heure est de besoigner. Certes. Pour votre service. Accept besvos. Nos allons. Allons. L'ennemi nos avouet. Retrayez vos amouets.
Acest vos, archers. J'obtempère. Archers.
Hearing the rallying cry of the English coming from the village of St. Sigmund, the French were alerted to the enemy position.
L'ennemi nos archives. Compagnons, courez-tous à l'adversaire.
Pour votre service.
The French recaptured St. Sigmund and prepared to rendezvous with Jeanne d'Arc.
Archers.
But a large English detachment had set up a blockade. So long as that force was in place, the French vanguard could not reach Jeanne.
Archers, prenez vos arcs. Archers en avoué.
The French army saw a chance to bolster their numbers and sent payment to their ally in return for reinforcements.
Archers, prenez vos arcs. On déguerpez, archers.
Attendez les commandements.
Archers, les commandements c'est comme le volet.
Soyez prêts. Compatez vos armées. Avant. Asseyez vos armées. Nos allons. Si comme vos voldrez. Allons. L'ennemi nos avouet. Je commande. Avant, avant, compagnon. Chevalier. Sommes en ordre. Essayez vos armées. Nous allons. Tous prêts.
With the English blockade destroyed, the French vanguard rejoiced at the arrival of Jeanne d'Arc and her troops. With their rearguard eliminated, the remaining English forces would now seek to escape the valley through the town of Patay. 3 enemy regiments were converging on the town along 3 main roads. Jeanne had either to stop the regiments on the roads or race ahead to fortify Patay itself. Sending gold to their ally, the French army received fresh reinforcements.
Les Coréens tous à Coréens, reste fort,
Oyez bien, compagnon.
Oyez les commandements. Je fais vos commandements.
Acces mes vos. Nos dispartans briemant. Compagnon, nos allons.
Commandement in continu compagnon. Marchez derrière. Attention, compagnon. Perfect. À l'arson. Compagnon, reste tous en bataille. Attention, compagnon.
After an intense pursuit and a hard-fought battle, the French crushed the remaining English army, thwarting their desperate retreat. Now the triumphant Jeanne d'Arc could safely lead Charles to Reims for his coronation as King of France. Jeanne d'Arc had liberated Orléans. Medieval soldiers suffered brutal injuries in battle. Their chance of survival lay with barber surgeons. From cutting hair to removing limbs on the battlefield, the job of a barber surgeon was varied, and so were their tools.
600 years ago, surgery was very different from today, and this is some of the kit that the surgeons of then would be using. For example, amputations. This bit of kit was used to cut through the skin. Then you need to get through bone, and this is what they used. Believe it or not, this was used for neurosurgery. But what they didn't have at the time was anesthesia.
Despite carrying out major surgery, barber surgeons had no formal training.
What they learned on the job, and the place where they practiced the most was the battlefield.
This was also a time when new surgical techniques were developed, particularly when it came to saving the life of a future king. In 1403, 16-year-old Prince Henry was injured in the Battle of Shrewsbury while fighting rebels trying to overthrow his father, King Henry IV.
The arrow penetrated his right cheek and became lodged at the base of his skull. He was very lucky it didn't kill him instantly.
Prince Henry pulled the arrow from his face. The shaft came out, but the arrowhead remained lodged inside.
They needed to get that out before infection set in and killed him.
To the rescue, celebrated surgeon John Bradmore. Bradmore recorded what he did to save the prince's life, including a picture of the tool he made to extract the arrowhead.
And it works by ensuring that the tip is closed and then inserting it along the track caused by the arrowhead until it meets the arrowhead.
Then the screw is turned to expand the tip, locking it in place inside the arrowhead.
And then ever so slowly and gently, you extract, making sure that you don't lose it along the way. I'm amazed by the skill that would have been needed to do this successfully. Can you imagine how good that felt when that came out?
The young prince survived to become King Henry V, hero of Agincourt. But perhaps the real heroes of medieval medicine were the barber surgeons, who saved countless lives on the battlefield. The Battle of Patay was a disaster for the English. The French wiped out their bowmen and drove their forces from the Loire Valley. Now for Jeanne d'Arc and the Dauphin, the way to Reims was clear. The Maid of Orleans rode with the Dauphin through the streets and was at his side when he was finally crowned King Charles VII of France. But less than 2 years later, Jeanne was captured in battle, sold to the English, and put on trial for heresy. She spent 6 months locked in a dungeon, awaiting her fate. King Charles, who owed his crown to Jeanne, did nothing to help win her freedom. She was found guilty. On May 30th, 1431, Jeanne d'Arc was brought here, to the old market square in Rouen, where she was burned at the stake. She was 19 years old. But what the Maid of Orleans started could not be denied. Her victories were the first in a chain of successes for France's military. Liberty was within reach. Thanks to the leadership of 2 brothers, Jean and Gaspard Bureau, the French army became experts in the use of artillery, transforming it into a disciplined, modern fighting force. In 1448, King Charles was ready to make a major move against the English. He vowed to retake Normandy. King Charles VII's army would soon have access to the most advanced artillery in Europe, thanks to the master gunners, the Bureau brothers. While the brothers